One of America's most iconic brands for nearly 80 years has filed for bankruptcy. Tupperware is more than 1 billion with a B dollars in debt. And Duke University marketing professor Jamie Jones says the reason, well, it's rather simple.
The popularity of these products soared in the 1950s and 60s, where women would host Tupperware parties, gatherings that would showcase these airtight plastic containers, and they'd recruit their friends to do the exact same thing. Times changed, and Tupperware did not. E-commerce started booming, direct sales started declining, and yet Tupperware held strong, refusing to acknowledge the need to innovate and change. In fact, Tupperware remained so steadfast in sticking to their business model that they didn't enter major retail channels until 2022. That's 2 years ago.
I remember seeing Tupperware for sale inside a store. And I thought that was a strange thing and a sign of, what has come now. Much like Tupperware, there may be some worrying that their retirement plan is, that it's stuck in the past as well. How do you make sure that's not the case, that it does stay up to date?
I think it's extremely important to keep your retirement plan up to date, especially when it comes down to the technology changes that we're seeing in our industry. And I think about other companies that filed bankruptcy or got into trouble because they didn't keep up with the times. I mean, Kodak, right? They said everybody's going to always have a camera when they go to vacation and refuse to adapt to the markets and, Blockbuster Video. I can remember my wife and we would go there on Friday nights and we would pick out the videos that we want for the weekend and walk up and down the aisles, and I always ended up going back to the first one that I picked, but we'd always want to see what's available out there. And now I could just click on a button and watch any movie pretty much anytime that I want, just from the comfort of my couch. The same is true when we look at the retirement industry today, and it's so important to keep your plan up to date. It's one of the things that we've done here at America's Retirement Headquarters is try to invest heavily into technology. And if you think about technology, I mean, technology's come a long way in many different categories. Think about the improvements, say, in the healthcare field. Many of the diseases in the past, which you would consider to be a deadly diagnosis, are now more chronic illnesses that people can live with for quite some time. And in the world of investing, we've also got some dramatic improvements. The ability to go online and develop a financial plan for folks and be able to do that in a much shorter amount of time by aggregating all the accounts together, used to take hours and hours to do. When we look at things like some of the advisors that are able to give you automated investment advice, we have a software for folks that have 401ks, and we can take and look and program in their 401ks, and if and when economic conditions change, we can send them a push notification to their cell phone and or alert them by email that they need to log in and use one of the circuit breakers that we had talked about earlier to try to limit the losses in the portfolio, and or when it's maybe time to rebalance or make a change. We think about things like developing the investment policy statement. With our software, instead of just asking an investor, are you conservative, moderate, or aggressive, we can use our software to really pinpoint the outcomes that could be possible within a portfolio and do that within about a 95% accuracy. And then also stress test a plan that says, what happens if it's one of those out of the norm type of environment? What is the maximum potential drawdown that you could face in your portfolio? And that is how it allows an investor to make much smarter decisions about how to position their portfolio. In my opinion, when you work with a financial professional, one of the common questions you're going to ask the professional is, what do you think the markets are going to do? And last week, we held our economic summit, and we talked a little bit about the markets this year. We talked a little bit about, our beliefs about where the markets are going to be. But the true value, I think, of working with a financial professional is to utilize the technology to keep your retirement plan up to date, to do everything they possibly can to optimize the portfolio, to make it customized to your unique situation, your individual goals and objectives, and then have a process that allows to monitor that plan. If I get my backup of my water and sewer at the house, if my sump pump goes out, an alarm goes off. It warns me, and that's something, in the past we didn't have. If we think about the car, I have and had a Tesla, a self-driving vehicle, and about 95% of the time, the vehicle would just take care of driving itself. The same would be true. I have some classic cars and I love some of my older vehicles as well. But the technology today can make things really better to help keep that retirement plan up to date. So if you're thinking about your situation, you're thinking about, how do you keep your plan up to date, or what is the company that you're working with, and or how is your current financial advisor keeping your plan up to date? And you think you need a second opinion, you want to say, hey, what else is out there? What do you guys do? That's where that retirement team action plan comes into play. We can run that analysis, give you that information, show you where your plan's up to date, show you maybe where there could be some opportunities for improvements, and or maybe some potential threats that you could be facing, so you know about those before something bad happens. Those are all the ways that companies like Tupperware or Kodak or Blockbuster Video should have been adaptive to the times. Because in retirement, you only get one shot at it. You don't have the luxury like they do to file bankruptcy and hopefully come back in a new fashion. Nobody in retirement time wants to end up going back to work because they're forced to. That's why you've got to get it right the first time.
And we all know that change is inevitable. So when you start working on a retirement strategy and a retirement plan, you might be developing that plan with one set of parameters in front of you, and then 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, something happens that forces you to have to change. And your approach with with how you're handling your retirement income situation. So having a qualified financial advisor is so important because it's really an ongoing dialogue that you're having with your advisor. They're listening to how your thoughts might be changing and are able to make pivots in the financial plan to help you get to where you want to be. Because I'll tell you what, I don't know about you, but if I have to call XYZ retirement plan to sell investments, I don't know many people who realize how they actually would go about doing that. So by having a person from the America's Retirement Headquarters work with you, you've got that strength lined up. If changes need to be made, we can handle it for you. And when things need to pivot in your planning process, we can handle that as well. So that's why you need to meet with us.
And a retirement plan doesn't have to be set in the 90s like Blockbuster, or the 80s, or even the 50s like Tupperware. Even if it hasn't been looked at or really thoroughly reviewed in the past couple of years, a lot of advances in technology is certainly worth doing. That is the power of a second opinion. You may find out that you're actually in pretty good shape right now, or you may find out there's opportunities out there, or worst case, that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But then now you'll know how to go about doing it. But it all starts by reaching out to a team like the team at America's Retirement Headquarters. 419-794-3030 is how you get started. You can also find out more about the team, set up a time to speak with them as well on the website, and that is arhq.com.